I think it's time someone did a deep dive to dispel all this perfectionist nonsense the blue ties and the red ties keep throwing around regarding the history of Canadian prime ministers, and how the ones that wore the appropriately shaded Windsor knot were absolutely fantastic, and the ones that didn't could have replaced their neckwear with a noose, and that would probably have been better for everyone. So obviously, that way of looking at things is entirely untrue, but necessary for these underinformed, overly performative parliamentary language bound dingbats to show their voter bases that their side of the aisle has always been amazing, while the other side is just a plus size sack of human waste we should never recycle. We are diving into the highs and lows of every single prime minister in Canadian history to answer the ultimate question of how in the hell is this country not a fiery inferno of human decay and suffering when our leaders appear to be totally incapable of doing anything more complicated than tying their own shoes? And by the way, it remains unconfirmed that they can even do that. Once we get through this mess of human rights violations and semi confirmed social nincompoopery, you will figure out the same thing I did, that there is no single solitary, understandable, sensical, even partially reasonable excuse for this country not crashing and burning decades ago under the weight of the unabashedly bad stewardship of nearly every single man and one woman who has ever taken the reins on this particular quarter of the planet we call Canada. For instance, did you know that while John A. Macdonald was not only the unforgettable father of Confederation in building railways to connect Ontario to Nova Scotia, he was mostly often so drunk he hallucinated money into existence? Most people call it accepting bribes, but we know the reality, right, Labatt? And vomiting during House sessions? In fact, MacDonald got so rich off the desire of businessmen to be the first to have access to the railway that he eventually lost his position of prime minister to Alexander Mackenzie, who was so boring and so predictable and so honest that Canadians decided they preferred to go off the cliff with the drunk than watch the country do anything of value. MacDonald even told the voter that Canadians preferred him drunk to his opponent sober. And he was right. Somehow in 1878, he was right. My suspicion is that this dedication to desiccation persists in Canada to this day, as you'll see as we run down all 24 prime ministers, including Kim Campbell, or at least what we know of her, and their unique contribution to why Canada has always been the big engine that decided it would rather have a beer. I think what we'll find is that the only reason Canada didn't go up in flame during those formative years is because every time one of our fearless leaders lit the match, they dropped it in the snow. And so, as everyone knows, if at first you don't succeed, give up and wait for the next guy to fix it. It is the Canadian way. Stay tuned.